third round of the HSM GT European Tour comes to you from Monza, the home of the Italian Grand Prix. Last week's jaunt in the British rain has seen some drivers outdo others in skill, pushing to the limits in the wet. And with the Italian summer in order here tonight, we're finally due for some absolute top speed racing here at the Temple of Speed. Hello everyone, it's me, Wayhard, and with me once again is Max, who just had his ear checked. Max, you can hear me. We're due for 90 minutes of sunny Italy, and I think that's always a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just put away a plate of pasta pomodoro, and we are looking forward to what's going to be a very spectacular racetrack. The start's going to be great, the speeds are going to be incredible, and the driving is going to be absolutely amazing. Before we get into the rest of qualifying, let's have a look at the standings right now, and it's an interesting look. We've got Afik Farid with 40 points leading the championship, with Ali Khairuddin in second with 30. Moin Taufik is third with 26 points, courtesy of those bonus points. Ryan Lim is fourth, followed by Zeth Yuen, Aiden Tan, and Alberto Descalzo, I do apologize, in seventh place. And now over to the team standings. LOR Ascent is in first place, 47 points, puts them in the lead, but Slow and Steady is at 43 points, so a very short gap between first and second place. GSR and 2P Garage is in third, followed by Gladius Competition, Swift Sim Racing and Velocity Racing Team, and Sim Tech Tech Racing Team in seventh. And just before we get back into qualifying, there is some success ballast in this championship. So just to read out the success ballast there, Moin Taufik has 20 kilos along with Slow and Steady. 50 kilos goes to Aiden Tan and LOR Ascent, and 10 kilos to Afik Farid and Swift Sim Racing. So some of the front runners there running a little heavier than the rest of the field, which should make things rather interesting. Very GT500, if you ask me.
Yeah, very much so. Certainly with GT500 just visiting Sabang last year, it did help us get an understanding of how this whole success ballast system works. And I think it's, of course, in fairness to the rest of the drivers who want to have an equal chance at fighting for the win. So that ballast still hasn't stopped drivers like Afif Farid and Taufik from being at the pointy end, as we'll see the drivers start to put down their qualifying lap times. Zeth Yuen currently in provisional pole with 148.2, and Jaden Liao very close behind, 500ths of a second behind in provisional second. Afik Farid put down a 148.3, so that's pretty remarkable indeed in this very interesting speed heaven liveried McLaren machine here. Provisional third with Aiden Tan, who's put down his time in fourth. Good variety of cars as usual. Everyone's sticking to the same manufacturers that they have had since the start of the season. We do have a BMW up top and hometown hero Ferrari in second.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Monza is one of those tracks where it's really down to how you approach the racing out there. Murdoch in fifth place. You can see the Ferraris are quite good, as you can imagine, going around here. But the interesting thing is looking at the Bentley from Nicholas Tan. I had a peek at his practice the other day. The Bentley seems really well set up for this. The front engine, rear drive, bigger cars tend to, I think, handle the curbs just a little bit better than some of the mid-engine competition. But of course, if you can drive around that problem, the mid-engine cars tend to have quite a decent speed through the center of the corner, which is still quite important. Parabolica is going to be the place where people are going to start setting up passes, either passing into Parabolica or coming out of Parabolica and into the first chicane. And we're going to see a lot of really drawn-out battles around here. It can be challenging to overtake, especially if the driver ahead is really good with his defensive driving. But, you know, it can still be done, and I think we're going to see some opportunistic driving up ahead. So we see that Jin Liao is in first position, 147.867. That's very quick indeed. We're looking at some very competitive times out there. We're looking at race pace around 148 to 149, so the race pace is also going to be absolutely electric.
Yeah, very much certainly. And we're now, in fact, more than halfway through qualifying. We've got 3 minutes plus left, so I think maybe 2 laps for drivers to put down any qualifying lap times they can make use of. And of course, because we're in Monza, absolutely important that drivers get as much slipstream as they can. And all the drivers, as you can see, they were queuing up along the main stretch with Nicholas right behind to try to get as much advantage on the straight line as possible. Jaden Liao, the pole sitter at the moment still with a 1:47.867, he's trying to. Oh, it's gone a little bit wide there. I hope that doesn't invalidate his lap times. You don't have that much. You don't have that many corners at Monza, but every corner can be an overtaking opportunity if you're brave enough. Certainly places like Variante Ascari, a critical corner which the drivers are probably going to start approaching now. That's Seng in the Nissan GTR leading Liao into Variante Ascari. Third, fourth gear corner, you want to try to nail your line right and get the best exit you can out of the exit of Variante Ascari for this quick run down the backstretch down into Parabolica. So Liao would try as much as possible to get the remnants of the slipstream he can from the big fat GTR in front as he comes upon curve up Parabolica, the final corner of this lap. So we'll see what times the drivers can set this time by, as it is the end of yet another lap here at Monza. So Jaden Liao with his own lap time to beat. There seems to be a yellow flag there, but with his own lap time to beat, Jaden Liao comes around the line with, I imagine, no change to his lap time, so he still retains his position. This is Ketupat Kopi Santan, a very, very, very good combination of food there. I love it. Very beautifully presented. Is it an Itasha pha there?
There is a bit of a theme going on across this year, especially with the Itacha liveries are coming back. If I put my tongue back in the right place, that the Itacha liveries are coming back in vogue in ACC. It seems like. Oof, a little bit of a mistake there. It looks like he clipped the grass, and sometimes coming up to turn one, if something goes wrong, really your only option to keep the car in one piece and to keep going in the qualifying session is to just go straight on. It'll be the same thing in the race. Turn one is going to be a real pinch point coming through there, and it depends. We'll have to wait and see if any drivers do decide to take it up the escape road or cut the chicane or what they'll do, because it's a very, very tight right-left combination there. It's used to be a lot more open. It used to be a double chicane back in the 90s, but of course the speeds were getting a little bit too high, so they had to really slow the cars down before Curva Grande. And 1 minute left on the clock there. We're looking at Mohamed Noor Nizwan in the Team WRC, Team WRT Rossi liveried car. Beautiful livery. I think it's one of the best liveries those BMWs ever ran, the number 46 Sketches. In fact, he is in 22nd position right now. He's actually running number 7 as his race number right there. But I have to say the livery game this time around in this championship has been really rather excellent.
Yeah, so I was just going to point out that there had just been some exchanges of pole positions there between Zethian and Ali Khairuddin over the past few moments. So for a quick moment there, Ali did leapfrog into pole, but Zethian retook that pole position with a 1:47.747. So you can see it's definitely very competitive right up there. Indeed, the time difference between Jaden Liao and Ali Khairuddin is 0.02 of a second, so that's very, very close indeed, just a hair's margin. We're now with Kamal Ali as he comes along the start-finish line again. And we'll see if he puts down the lap time. Now, these drivers are all so competitive that lap times are all within, I would say the top 18 drivers are all within 1.5 seconds of each other. So that's a very good indication of the density of competitiveness that we'll see for ourselves tonight as the drivers compete together. Your pole sitter, Zethian, in this beautifully presented BMW that I think in real life was driven by Raffaele Marciello, one of the very fast BMW works drivers. Interesting stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's Zeth in first position, Ali Khairuddin in second. That's going to be huge for his championship. Leo in third, Lou in fourth, Tan in fifth, Farid is in sixth place. I think Farid really needs to pull a good lap out of the board in order to try and get himself closer to the front. Now, when it comes to qualifying here, it's super critical. You want to be as high up the leaderboard as you can get. 1:47.747, the time to beat We're looking at Jaden Liao coming out of the corner there. It looks like he might not have the drive coming out of the corner. We'll have a look and see he is faster, 147.385. So we have a new pole position there. Brilliant run there from Jaden, just getting himself up into first place. And it looks like there are no more improvements apart from Murdoch. Let's see if Murdoch can do anything to move himself up from 9th position. And he is unable to do so. So, yeah, this has been absolutely incredible stuff there. We've seen the top position change all the time throughout qualifying, and that just goes to show with the top 10 virtually all within 1.2 seconds of each other, this is going to be a very, very close race. I think it's not going to be so much I don't think it's going to be so much the pace overall, but your consistency that's going to matter in a race this long. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll bring you all the racing action right after this. And we are back. And as you can see, not only have we switched from qualifying to the race, we've turned the sun off as well. So it's going to be a very exciting start to the race there. A little bit of darkness into light, as the song goes. And we're going to have quite a bit of fun. And if you just joined us, my name's Max Palmer. With me is Chan Wei-Hen, and we're going to have a lot of fun, I think, at the start of the race.
I was completely not expecting driving Monza at night. I think it's going to be a huge challenge for drivers because Monza isn't one of those places you think of when driving at night. Perhaps Daytona and Spa are. So I think the drivers are up for quite a steep challenge indeed. Just less than a minute left. All the drivers are on the grid, and well, I think the drivers have had 2 rounds in the season to kind of get up to speed and prepare themselves. So we should be, fingers crossed, hoping for a very clean and neat start here through the first chicane of Monza, Max.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be really critical, actually, coming into Monza with a little bit of experience of how everyone else drives around you. Now, we have a real mix of drivers throughout this. We've got guys who are veterans in other sims that have just gone into the world of ACC and have proven themselves to be quite quick. You also have the ACC veterans, so of course our competition sort of drivers that have been driving this all the way through. You've had even guys like Afik Farid and Ryan Lim who have been racing on and off for a while. They've come out of ACC competition for a year or two, and now they're coming back in. So it's really a trip into the unknown for most of the drivers as to how the field is going to behave. But one thing I'll have to say is that 2 rounds, you can learn a lot about the drivers that are around you, but it's still not quite 16 rounds of a Formula One championship. So I think there's still going to be a little bit of spiciness coming into turn 1, but hopefully we'll be able to get through turn 1 without too many issues. So anyways, we're just going to go straight back to the break, and we will rejoin the race just before the start. And we are back. Special thanks there to SimMagic for supporting us here at HSM. Now the drivers have a bit of a job trying to get some temperature into the cars. Because we're going from dark to light, as you can see, the temperature on the track is quite a bit lower than it was in practice and qualifying. And the drivers have actually practiced this dark into light sort of racing from night to daytime. And the real critical thing in ACC is the tyre pressures. It's very tricky to actually manage the tyre pressures when the temperatures start to rise. There is a bit of a number, I believe it's about 26.5, between 26.5 and 27 psi, just sort of the sweet spot for this track. But trying to get that sweet spot as the temperature builds across the race is going to be quite interesting indeed. Just yet another spanner in the works for these drivers.
Yeah, I can't really build up temperature in the tires during the formation lap, but it shouldn't really matter that much as long as you just take it easy on the first 2 or 3 laps. That should be fine. So, well, don't let the simplicity of Monza fool you. It is a track with few corners, but plenty in history and plenty in moments in motor racing history. So, it's also going to be for a fact that these drivers will trundle through the same stretches of tarmacs that some of the world's best racing legends have done so many years in the past, maybe even 100 years ago. So we're having a look at Hits 1 with this very nicely presented Valentino Rossi's BMW right there. Also, I think co-driven by Raffaele Marciello at a point in time. So drivers at this point will have to probably try to get back into double file because that's the expected start formation as the drivers take the green flag. So it is all currently being led by pole sitter Jaden Liao and Zeth Yun along the outside line. So we could probably see cars like the BMW, Bentley, a bit of formation lap contact there between position 7 and 8, but that should all be fine. Max, I'm so excited and I hope you are too.
Oh yes, absolutely. Now the tension is beginning to rise. The drivers have a very strict speed limit of about 70 kilometers an hour that they have to hold before they start the race. The last little bit of gamesmanship happening there between Liao and Yuan in first and second place, between the Ferrari and the BMW. They are about to go green. Ladies and gentlemen, this is about to be epic. Away they go, and it looks like the front runners have a fantastic start there. They're still side by side coming down towards turn 1. Who's going to win the braking? Oh, there's contact. There's big contact there. And the BMW manages to get out just a little bit ahead there. Leo's not going to be too happy about that. Oh, and there's more contact as well. Cars going off the track to try and avoid an incident. There's even more carnage behind. Unbelievable scenes there from the first chicane. We were talking about this before the race. We were kind of fearing that there was going to be contact in the chicane, but to have a little bit of contact before the chicane, it just goes to show how narrow the run is into that first first chicane there, especially when you're starting double file. It's very, very tricky to try and A, judge your braking, and B, also try and get the position of your cars. These cars are quite big, not quite like single-seaters. Coming around the Lesmos now, it looks like Yuen is in first place, Liao in second, and the number 14 Ferrari of Lu is in third position. Jaden Liao racing for LOR Ascent is looking good for his particular championship if he can maintain this position, but there's 90 minutes in this race and a long way to go.
Yeah, that's quite a sketchy start to the race, although I would say the top 5 drivers managed to escape most of the action by taking the chicane escape route. So Zetian continues to lead, does go a little bit off there, but no issues whatsoever. Jaden Liao is in a very advantageous position at this point. He's sitting in the slipstream of Seth as we go down the backstretch, pending entry into Curva Parabolica. So great perspectives here as we ride on board the Ferrari 296 GT3 of Liao. As he goes he dabs on the brakes for Parabolica, I would imagine a 4th gear corner, then full throttle along the exit before rounding off the corner for the first time in this race across the start finish line. So positions have pretty much shuffled a fair bit. One notable observation is that Afiq Farid might have dropped a couple of positions down to 8th, and Taufik has climbed up to 4th position. So over the first chicane they go. This will be a key battle for the lead between Zetian and Jaden Liao, with the rest of the drivers Lu onwards behind, having their own show as well. A key battle there possibly developing between Taufik and Khairuddin for 4th and 5th position.
Indeed, you see that the chicanes do have this effect of stretching out the field over the first couple of laps there. It's why a lot of drivers tend to push very, very hard to get some positions into the chicanes, and it's all well and good telling a group of racing drivers to take it easy at turn 1, but as we all know, even in real life racing, even at Formula 1 level, they sometimes tend to get a little bit excited going into there. But right now, Zeth is in first position, followed by Jaden Liao, Lu in 3rd, Ali Khairuddin in 4th position, Taufik in 5th, and Tan is in 6th, Murdoch in 7th, Ryan Lim in 8th position, Afiq Farid in 9th, and Kelvin Pao in 10th place. We've got a few more movers and shakers up and down the leaderboards there, but it's a long way to go. Oh, a big snap there from Liao. Jaden going very, very wide there. It's very tricky to get those chicanes right because you have to attack the curbs, and if you hit the curbs at just the wrong angle, you can send the car sliding, but that's a massive disadvantage to the Ferrari driver in his efforts to get up into first position. There's still a long way to go, but he'll be ruining that mistake.
Yeah, so he unfortunately got jumped on by Lu there, so Lu has gone up to 2nd place with Liao slipping down into 3rd. We're having a look at Khairuddin in one of the GTRs as well. We do have a number of GTRs in this race, so Khairuddin in the midst of this front pack here, so Liao trying to perhaps go for an overtake move on the other Ferrari in front, but Khairuddin going very close, nearly bumper to bumper indeed through the first chicane there. Taufik in 5th position, also trying his best to perhaps close that gap, but we will see a 3-way battle potentially unfold here as drivers take through Biasono in full throttle, keeping as much possible to the right line for the best entry into this 2nd chicane here. Very difficult to overtake here, but don't underestimate the drivers, I would say.
Yeah, a lot of aggressive driving all up and down the leaderboard there. Oh, Jaden defending very, very robustly going into the first Lesmo there. It looks like he's dropped a little bit of pace in comparison to where he was in the opening part of the race there. Coming into this lap there, I'm wondering if he might have picked up a little bit of damage from hitting that curb and running a little bit wide, or if he's just having a little bit of an issue getting into the rhythm of the race there. So he's dropped a position there and he's in danger from Ali Khairuddin. We've seen Ali Khairuddin, he's very, very quick. He's 2nd in the solo standings, so we know he's going to be very, very good at driving there. But Jaden, one thing I've noticed over the years there is that he's great in defense and in moving his car around a packed field. So it's going to be an interesting battle developing there. Hopefully he'll be able to get up towards Lu there in 2nd position, but it looks like even Ali Khairuddin, he has to worry about the car ahead of him, but also the car behind of him. Taufik is in 5th position, and right in the slipstream there, the Ferrari punching a little bit of a smaller hole compared to that GTR, and maybe just getting a little bit of an advantage coming into turn one there. Meanwhile, Jaden is all over the back of that purple Ferrari. It's going to be a Ferrari v Ferrari battle there for second place, and it's going to be interesting to see where he makes his move. Looking around there, Lou driving the car in the center of the track there just to make sure he covers all of his bases coming up towards the second chicane. It's going to be interesting to see. Is he going to go defensive? He's slightly defensive there, just trying to make sure, just trying to remind Jaden that he has his bases covered going through there now, through Lesmos. Looks like he's dropped a little bit of pace. That Ferrari isn't quite as settled through the chicanes there. I'm guessing he's decided to set the car up to favour the higher speed corners and especially Parabolica to get that run on the main straight, which would be quite smart come the end of the race.
Oh, that's a very interesting strategy indeed, because this is a 90-minute race and the stakes of the race will sometimes change quite drastically depending on what point in time you will be. Of course, the fuel burn is also something for drivers to take note of. Assuming that you start to run less fuel, you will have a higher ride height, and that will sometimes change the characteristics of your car ever so slightly. So Zethian pulls a gap ahead of the rest of the field, more than 2 seconds of a gap ahead of the rest of the field. So that's an advantage I'm sure he'll want to hold on to as much as possible. Probably similar to the advantage that Taufik had last race and that Afik had in the first race. So we might see a recurring pattern here if this is to remain. Of course, Zeth Rider in the BMW, it does have a little bit more advantage in that it is a more stable car and a car that's more geared towards straight line performance. So it's quite natural to see the Nissan GT, the BMW M4 performing well there. Liao continues to sit in the slipstream of Lu, still within close proximity, while at the same time trying to fend off Ali Khairuddin in fourth. So we will see how these drivers kind of manage. At least at this moment, things have kind of calmed down quite a fair bit, so it is up to the drivers to adequately hold their ground as they make their way through. Khairuddin probably trying to go for an inside line into this chicane, but it is quite difficult to make an overtaking move work here, so that's probably not going to happen. We might see Khairuddin maybe think of something past the two Lesmos or maybe down into Ascari later on, but as right now Jaden takes the first Lesmo, then into the second Lesmo, we might see Khairuddin stage something if he gets his braking and his exit right. Down this stretch here, a slight left kink before a run down underneath the bridge. Riding now with, I believe, that looks to be probably with Jaden we're riding on in third place. So braking into Variante Ascari, no real overtaking attempts made yet. Right now it's just all about the drivers remaining steady. And that's the whole point of surviving at Monza.
Yeah, that's the other thing as well. The driver is going to be very well aware of the fact that if you do battle a little bit too much between yourself and your opponents, you do tend to lose time. And right now, Zeth is taking full advantage of that. He's opened up a gap of 2.9 seconds to Lou. And it's going to be interesting to see if Jaden can get past and really put his head down. He's going to try and go after the race win, obviously, but Lou has other ideas. They're coming up towards the first chicane there. They're very close. They're going to go side by side. Is Jaden going to be able to get him on the brakes? He manages to get the inside line, and Lou has to concede the position there. Beautiful move there. Textbook turn one antics there from Jaden Liao. A perfect representation of the kind of effect slipstream has on you. If you can hook up to the rear bumper of the car ahead of you, you can really send it up the inside coming into these chicanes. But he's not quite out of the woods just yet. He's going to have to now open up the advantage to the other Ferrari driver and really put the hammer down in order to close up that gap to Zeth.
Oh, that was such a clean move, wasn't it, for position? So Jaden Liao reclaiming his second position, done so very beautifully. I think it couldn't have been a better move there. So now the car's taking the Lesmo corners once again, rinsing and repeating the lap. But right now with Jaden, I think extending his gap ahead of Lou up to 0.8 of a second. So that's an emerging margin that's probably going to become more comfortable in the laps to come. Zeth seems to have pulled a huge 3.3 second gap ahead of the rest of the drivers, so he is pretty much in comfortable territory, right up front there.
Yeah, that race start couldn't have gone any better for Zeth. Managing to get himself out into the lead, and once he got that lead, he really pushed home the advantage while the cars behind him were squabbling and fighting for position. It's one of those things where you really can't actually get around it. You can't run away from a battle. You can't, in motor racing especially, you can't really shrug it off or try and do anything to avoid it. You just have to get your head down, sort out the positions as quickly as possible, and then really chase after that front runner. Ali Khairuddin there again. He is second in the solo championship. Now, here's an interesting thing to think about for next week's race. They're going to have a 3-hour race, and the solo drivers are going to be doing 3 hours solo. So that's going to be interesting to see. Ryan Lim there is another one of the solo drivers. He's in fact in the in the hunt in the midfield there in 8th position right now, 0.4 of a second, just behind our championship leader in the solo category, Afiq Farid, in that beautiful Speed Tavern liveried machine. And it looks like Ryan Lim, he's a bit of an expert around Monza. Sometimes he feels it, sometimes he doesn't feel it. And it looks like he's feeling it a little bit today there. Ooh, Afiq running a little bit wide through Lesmo there. That hurts you quite a bit. Because you really need to get the second part of Lesmo just right. You need to use all of the curb and then some on the exit in order to get a good drive down towards Ascari. And as we see them coming up towards Ascari, just have a look at how they absolutely murder the curbs in these cars there, right over the top of the sausage curbs there. You can see the suspension working overtime. It's pretty painful when you're actually in the car IRL. But if you can get it right, it does gain you a lot of lap time. But spare a thought for the guys who are doing endurance races around this hallowed ground, because that must be a little bit sore the day after.
Well, not as bad as Sebring, I would imagine. Yeah. But otherwise, this is Murdoch in 9th, now trying to go for an 8th position move. Currently being held by Ryan Lim. So always great to see Ryan fighting up here well indeed. Interesting choice of car, the Aston Martin. One of the more unique cars on the grid. Murdoch goes for the inside, just and makes the move work for 8th position. Almost made the move work, but Ryan Lim has the line advantage and still holds on to 8th position. So the thing about overtaking a chicane is that you need to make sure you are able to send it far enough past the first apex in order to clean off the move at second apex. So if you go in side by side too long, you won't be able to clear the move. Or maybe you try to get a better exit. So great attempt there by Murdoch, but Ryan still holds on to 8th. The more driving into the second chicane, I think Murdoch might think of perhaps going for more overtaking moves later on in the lap. We're right on board with Murdoch now. Perfect camera angle here from the passenger seat, in fact. Sitting in the slipstream of Ryan, going through the second Lesmo. You don't want to mess up the second Lesmo. And a good full throttle top speed run down here, down this stretch, before going underneath the most famous bridge in Monza, where the big oval track is on top, before then breaking down for a 3rd gear, left, right, left here along Variante Ascari. You can use the curbs here, but not too much of the curbs, or you'll get busted by the sneaking policeman. Along with the perfect exit there. And Ryan Lim seems to still have the advantage at this point of the lap. So not too many battles going on here throughout the grid here at Monza, but this is one of those battles that seem to be brewing indeed. Max, I think great driving by these two drivers. We're now still in the first third of the race, so the pace compared to last week, I think that the drivers are far more measured in this race, and that's a good thing to see.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see that they're driving a little bit more tactfully. They're thinking more towards the end of the race. The Ali Khairuddin, meanwhile, does in fact get a very quick lap in there. He went purple the previous lap there. 149.287 is his last, and he's starting to gain some speed there. But right now the battle between Murdoch and Ryan Lim is the one we're focusing on there. He's tried at the first chicane. Will he try something in the second chicane? Remember, he has to get the car right alongside Ryan Lim to have a chance. And like I say, Ryan has a lot of experience around this racetrack, so he knows what he can and can't do. Sometimes he'll let an opponent get his nose in at the first chicane there with a plan to try and get them back on exit, the good old switchback style of racing there. He can get quite animated in the cockpit as he's driving through there. Ooh, Murdoch, looks like there's a little bit of an issue there. I'm not sure if it looks like that's equipment related, so he looks like he was getting a little bit of a problem there. It looks like he's back up and running again. I'm not too sure why. It looked like his wheel disconnected for a split second there.
Oh, that would have been unfortunate if that was the case. Definitely not a place you want to lose control of your wheel. So we'll probably have a look at some of the other battles. Oh, that's overtaking attempt by Nicholas Tan indeed on Murdoch. So Nicholas almost made the move work due to the unfortunate situation of Murdoch just a couple of moments ago. So we'll see if this is a drag race attempt. We do have more top speed advantage towards the Bentley, and Nicholas is definitely taking full advantage of that top speed run that the Bentley has. So going side by side down the main stretch, we'll try to edge out Murdoch, but unfortunately doesn't seem to be able to make that move work. So Murdoch continues to sit in ninth, but of course Nicholas he definitely has a lot of potential in trying to overtake, and I would expect Nicholas to continue acting on this overtaking move maybe within the next couple of laps.
Now we're going to have a look at the battle between Farid and Lou there, getting very close there. Taufik, Lou and Farid. On our timing screens there, I was just about to mention, it looked like they got really close there for a second. Not too sure if there was a bit of a coming together, but this battle is starting to get a little bit spicy. And you can see there, again, I think Farid
a little bit wide.
Quite a lot of experience here, but you can see he is absolutely pushing that car as hard as it will go. One of the legends of the Speed Tavern days of ACC, and a outright character in those circles, really pushing the car quite hard there. But of course you have Lua behind him and Taufik ahead of him. Both drivers very quick indeed, and it looks like whatever got them really close together on our timing screens has just about dissipated, and they are now running in lockstep. That is your solo standing leader right at the moment. So absolutely fascinating stuff there. Shazwan, in the meantime, is also getting a little bit closer to Claudius up ahead. And this looks like it's going to be a nice move. Coming down the back straight there, will they try and do something coming up towards Parabolica? I wouldn't personally do it, but I have seen it work. Not quite close enough, but he is close enough. Shazwan is close enough to the back to try and do a slipstream maneuver into turn one. So he's going to try and line the car up to the back there, get themselves bumper to bumper, following the wheel tracks as closely as he can. Some of the drivers even using the wind noise to try and maximize their drafting. Not quite close enough this time around. It looks like Claudius has a better braking coming into the first chicane there, at least that time around. But that looks like it's cooking to be a fantastic little race brewing there. 0.2 of a second between these two drivers. That is plenty close enough for a surprise maneuver, but I'm noticing something here, that the overtaking maneuver really isn't quite on yet until you're less than a tenth before you get into the ability to actually overtake cleanly. Anything more than a tenth of a second and you're gonna really have to struggle. So this is about planning your overtakes in advance. You have to get the previous lap right. Whoa, just as I say that, was a mistake from Claudius, which puts them side by side through the second Lesmo, and it looks like Shazwan just about manages to clean up that position there. Fantastic bit of driving, very opportunist bit of driving for Shazwan. He saw the mistake from the car up ahead. He went for a gap and he managed to get the position. But Claudius is going to try and take it back hard on the brakes, not quite able to pull the car side by side, and Shazwan manages to claim that position. But this is going to be a battle that these two guys are going to enjoy for a few laps to come.
Yeah, beautiful driving there. It is for a fact that Monza has less corners, so you really have to rely on either other drivers' mistakes or planning overtaking moves, like you mentioned, with the use of appropriately positioned slipstreams at the right places around the track. So some drivers have been more successful in that, some drivers perhaps less so. Of course, most drivers would definitely focus on defending their position as much as possible. So this is not Monaco, but it's in fact the opposite of Monaco, but some strategies still remain constant throughout. Kamal Ali in 12th at the moment, 7/10 behind Rodriguez in 11th. So Kamal Ali in the Honda NSX GT3, which is in some ways, in some regards, pretty similar to the 296 GT3 of the Ferrari in front. Both cars having V6 engines. Probably the Ferrari being slightly bigger than the NSX from just by eyeballing the car here. But otherwise, both cars probably having similar characteristics, so we will see a sufficient apples-to-apples comparison with both drivers. Oh, a bit of mistake by Rodriguez, and that's going to potentially cede an advantage to Kamal Ali as they go now run down this stretch underneath the bridge. Kamal Ali along the inside, which would be the inside upon the entry to Ascari. Kamal Ali gets the advantage, makes the move work, and gains a position ahead of Rodriguez. Taking advantage of that miss. Oh, Rodriguez up in the air and unfortunately sent his car out wide into the barriers there, and that's an unfortunate end to that battle between himself and Kamal Ali. So, wow, that was quite scary to see indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Clean bit of driving, though, from both drivers right up until the curb strike there. Again, those curves are super tricky at Ascari. You have to hit them. You have to be aggressive to get the lap time. But if you're 2 feet too far to the left, you can send yourself for a wild ride. Now, this is Aiden Tan right now in 4th position, closing up the gap there, trying to close up to Ali Khairuddin and really pushing hard to gain that spot. Right now, it's all about tactics. It's the early part of the race, but you want to get yourself in a comfortable position, and if you're catching the car ahead, you really want to study your opponent as you go through. Now you join in with 8/10 between the two drivers there, but the gap is ebbing and flowing as they go through. Ali Khairuddin, incidentally, very quick lap time, but his last lap time 1:48.6 plays Aiden Tan's 1:48.1. So Aiden definitely a little bit quicker in the last lap, and it looks like he might actually be gaining a little bit in some sectors through this one. Again, another Aston driver. It's a very interesting car, this, and actually you see quite a few interesting cars be brought out. For those of you who don't know at home, these cars have a balance of performance between all of the different machines that are racing right now. And in Assetto Corsa Competizione, you can actually change the BOP of the different cars. Now, the base game BOP is relatively good, but there's still some OP cars, and there's still some nerfed cars. Cars that overperform and underperform throughout that. So Low Fuel Motorsports actually came up with their own version of BOP, so their own set of weights and air restrictors. That's how they balance these cars out. They'll give some cars more or less weight or more or less air into the engine, which translates to more power. So the more air you can put into the engine, the more power. So you restrict that, you get a little bit less. And that's how these cars can race so competitively over a wide variety of tracks. And the interesting part about the LFM BOP is that it's brought some of the older cars back out. The GTR was said to be outclassed. The Bentley as well is said to have fallen out of fashion in ACC competition. Even the NSX, which was considered by many a few years back to be outmoded, even when it was still relevant, at least in game, with the LFM BOP, it's actually brought the whole field back together again. What this allows the drivers to do is pick a car that suits their driving style without having to worry about the meta, if you will.
But that's great to hear indeed. Of course, LFM being the preferred platform for indeed online multiplayer competition on many sim racing platforms, including ACC, and they're definitely behind some of the great things in multiplayer racing outside of iRacing. So we're now having a look at some of the other drivers throughout the field. Ryan Lim, this is one of the closer battles that's happening throughout the field between Ryan Lim and Lu in further up in 7th. So this is, at the moment, one of the segments of the field where we have cars in close proximity, because we are indeed coming towards the second third of the race where drivers start to become a bit more spread out. So most of the drivers have probably started to go into hot lap mode, but not here. Ryan Lim and Lu. Oh, Lu seems to have slowed down a little bit there. No, probably that was just a perspective. So Ryan Lim hard on the brakes. First gear corner into chicane. Oh, a bit of mistake by Lu, and that would probably be, that was almost an overtaking opportunity that Ryan Lim might have been able to take advantage of, but that's not going to happen. On to Biasono once again, full throttle right-hander. You can just see that the key to this is to try to stay inside as much as possible, but right now it is going to be advantageous for Ryan to go along the outside for a move for 8th position. So for 7th position, so Ryan Lim makes the overtaking move work on Lu and takes 7th right away from the entry of the second chicane right there. Perfect move as Ryan now leads Lu down through the 2 less move corners. Beautiful driving there indeed by both drivers for this move to take place cleanly.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely A-class race craft. I was about to say craftsmanship there, but it is sort of a kind of craftsmanship, because a lot of drivers tend to make the mistake of, when practicing, just practicing the lap, just doing hot laps all the time and trying to get the lap time down, and that's pretty important. Oh, just as we were about to heap a little bit of praise on him, I fear the commentator's curse might have struck him just a little bit there. It was only a matter of time with the two of us in the studio, but it looks like he's managed to keep his position there. Meanwhile, he's perhaps cursing us a little bit. Ryan Lim, managing to keep the car in 7th position there. He wouldn't have wanted to do that too many more times. But again, that curve on the inside, that seems to be the, if you will, the esports line through there. And that's the line that all the drivers are taking now. You effectively, as far as I can see, you sort of have to hit the curb hard enough that you float a wheel over one of the sleeping policemen and land on the other side. But of course, if you don't quite get it right, exciting things could happen. As you can see there from Adam Howard.
Yeah, there was an attempt there.
Yep, an attempt was made, and to be fair, he's managed to keep that car going. This is where the big cars do have an advantage as well. It's a lot easier to do that line in the BMW, in the Lexus, and in the Bentley, in comparison to some of the lighter cars, the Aston Martin and the mid-engine cars. But that's what makes GT3 so exciting, especially the way we've have it set up with the BOP as it is right now, is that while the lap times are super similar right now, the drivers only dropping a second compared to the start of the race due to tyre wear, but they drive so differently, and you have to really work with that as you're going through there. In 8th place there, that is Chuhan Lu going through, and as if you can see on the timing towers there, we have some orange numbers, and that, I believe, is your race strategy. So some of the drivers, some of the teams are going to be swapping drivers at pit stops. Some of them will be driving solo right through the race, but they will have to pit over the course of a 90-minute race. It's a little bit too long for them to go sans pit stop. And the interesting thing about this track is, towards the middle of the race, towards the 45-minute mark, you're going to start to see people thinking about strategy. Am I going to go long, deep into the race before I change the tires? Am I going to go a little bit short? Like I mentioned before, ACC, one of the critical factors in setting up a car in Assetto Corsa Competizione is the tires. And the interesting part about doing the race as we've done it today, going from the darkness and right into the middle of the day, is that the tire temperatures become tire temperatures and pressures get a little bit harder to manage when the track temperature changes. these tires are going to be a little bit overpressured comparison to what they would normally run if we're running this with the usual 1x time multiplier. So that's going to be interesting. I think, judging by what some of the drivers have told me, they're going to have to run different. Their second set of tires at a completely different set of pressures than their first set of tires. So the car's going to feel a bit different after the pit stop.
Well, that's definitely a drastic change in track temperature, most importantly. So I think we probably started the race with potentially 20 degrees of track temperature, and now we're all the way up to 33 degrees. So that's a vastly different effect on the grip of the cars. So something for the drivers to definitely have to handle as well. And another change might also have been the fact that when you have air temperatures different, the top speed of your car does get affected a little bit. So perhaps in the day you do get your car does have a little more top speed. And at a track at Monza, as Shazwan goes for an overtaking move along the outside for position, that was a clean move there. I think, yeah, Eason must have slowed down a little bit for Shazwan to make that move past. So, yeah, so I think the effect of the air temperatures will definitely have some influence over the top speed of those cars, and with the time multiplier in the way, that definitely makes things quite challenging for the drivers. So Eason Lowe continues to sit in 13th, and we have a look at another potential overtake move by Nicholas Tan on Pau, and we do have another one, Raiden Shogun, who's just exited the pits, so that would crowd the entry to turn 1 quite a little bit there. But Nicholas continues to go for an attempt on overtaking on Pau, and we'll see if that is going to be possible. So I think Pau just opened for position, just moved to the side there for Nicholas to make the overtaking move work so well. That was a very slick overtake move there indeed. Nicholas Tan up to 9th position.
Yeah, it looks like he might have had a little bit of a mistake or an issue coming out of the chicane there. And, you know, as a driver, sometimes it's a bit hard to accept, but if you're 20 kilometers an hour slower coming out of a chicane, it's better to just give the position back, especially at a track like this with so many long straights. It's better to give the position back and try and catch back onto the coattails, that is the slipstream coming off that Bentley, and try and get back up to pace that way as well. So interesting bit of driving and tactics there from the two drivers there. But I have to say, Nicholas Tan in the Bentley, again, another car that a lot of drivers have sort of written off. I believe he is in fact the only Bentley driver in the field, but he is in the top 10, which just goes to show that if your driving really does suit this Bentley, you know, sometimes it's better to go with what you know than what is technically on paper the fastest. But yeah, it's an interesting car. I've actually been lucky enough to have a look at these Bentleys IRL a few years back, built by M Sport, the same team that's behind the Ford Rally program. Not only with WRC but also with Dakar and a few other bits and pieces that they do across the motorsports world as well. And I have to say, the attention to detail those cars have. There's something about rally teams building a race car where every single zip tie is just in the right place. Every single clip has had so much thought put into it. It's always so much fun to see cars built to that high of a level, that high of a caliber. Unfortunately, IRL, they sort of have gone a little bit out of favor. It's a bit too hard to get them up to the sharp end of the field in terms of BOP, but, well, you never know. Maybe one day they might decide to come back into motor racing and might give M Sport just a little bit more work.
Yeah, I sure hope they do, along with some of the more old school traditional race car operators, if you may. Some of the older names that I can't exactly remember, but I think there's one team called the ProDrive. What's it? ProDrive. Ah, yes, ProDrive. They're very excellent with the Ferrari 575 back in the day. Well, I hope they have some involvement in the modern GT3s as well.
Yeah, I believe they do still have their finger in the pie. They were, again, this is going just off of memory, so forgive us if we're wrong. I will Google it later when we have a gap in the proceedings, but ProDrive had for a very long time a partnership with Aston Martin. In fact, David Richards, the boss of ProDrive and a former world champion co-driver in rallying, yet another rally interloper in circuit racing. He actually even had, I believe, some shares in Aston Martin, so he had a bit of skin in the game there as well. But they work so well together. Of course, ProDrive was famous for those big V12 Ferraris at Le Mans, and they were perhaps the only team that managed to build a Ferrari better than Ferrari themselves could, which definitely raised a few eyebrows right here in Monza and in the rest of Italy. But the other thing they're famous for, of course, is the Subaru World Rally Team, which unfortunately is no longer with us. But I do hear rumblings that there might be things in the works in that department, perhaps in a few years' time. So you never know. Sometimes there's just nothing that beats experience. And again, ProDrive, just the same as M Sport, the insane attention to detail. And speaking of Dakar earlier on, I believe ProDrive was involved in the Dacia Sandriders that actually won the rally.
Oh, that's seriously fascinating indeed. Yeah, definitely. There's something about rally racing that's so alluring that, you know, that's probably missing from every other track-based road-going discipline like sports car racing. And I think the whole, from my impression, the whole kind of spectator accessibility with the sport is something in rally racing that we should, that I hope we can see in the rest of motor racing.
Indeed, Raiden Shogun there with that beautiful livery in that Mercedes. I have to say, I was a little bit skeptical when people started putting the Atasha liveries back on the cars, but it is being done to a higher level now. So I will have to give Raiden his due there. And of course, I believe Brendan Chong also running an Atasha livery on his Ferrari, and a couple of other teams up and down the leaderboard there. Fetching colour as well, so sort of a purplish hue as he comes around to start of another lap. Jason Lowe, slow and steady racing there in 14th position, doing quite well for himself. He's running what I have to admit is perhaps the funniest livery I've seen on a Porsche in a long time. I do believe that is a homage to the Mercedes Formula One team.
Well, not just that, I think the Mercedes Petronas GT3 team is, I think, Petronas Syntium, that in fact the boss, the co-founder of LOR himself, Melvin Lowe, had involvement in racing GT3 cars. I think back when the SLS AMG GT3s were a thing, there was a Malaysian Petronas Syntium team that ran the program. Yeah, so in some ways an homage to that as well. So well, I hope to see. It'll be great to see Petronas getting involved in even more levels of GT racing, apart from the very successful involvement in Formula One. So Lowe currently in 14th. He is quite a distance from the cars elsewhere throughout the field. So we are now in the middle part of the race. So this is where the tempo really slows down a lot. Drivers are free to decide when they want to make their pit stops. So it could be for fuel, or in some cases for drivers running in teams, it would be for driver swaps. So at any point in time within this window, we would expect drivers to make their way into the pits to I guess iron out their strategies. Raiden Shogun in 17th, set behind Nemanza in 16th. So breaking down into Parabolica, Nemanza going for a defensive entry. Indeed, very very genius move there. Raiden Shogun trying to go along the inside of the exit of Parabolica, full throttle run there. We'll see if Shogun is going to be able to come side by side down this main stretch. So he couldn't really get too good of a run out of the exit. Of course, Nemanza going all defensive right there, slightly weaving indeed, going for the defensive inside line, and it's going to be a two-wide entry into a chicane. Raiden Shogun tries to make the move work, and makes it work indeed into the entry of turn 1, and cleans the move along the exit of the chicane. And that is a position gain up to 16th by Raiden Shogun. Great driving there by the Itasha Mercedes ahead of the Lexus GT3.
But it's not quite over yet.
No.
It looks like the Manza's got a little bit of a run coming up towards the second chicane. This is the tricky part in B. It looks like they've been having quite a bit of fun while we were looking elsewhere. But it looks like Raiden's managed to actually get the car fully ahead this time around, but I think these guys are going to be battling for quite a few more laps to come. I believe they have not yet pitted, so they're one of the cars that are still not out on, not having done their mandatory pit stops just yet. I noticed quite a few of the drivers at the front end of the field have, judging by the timing tower on the left-hand side. But yeah, interesting stuff indeed. But there we go, Monza, bested by Raiden Shogun. I have to say, I have to pick my jaw off the floor there. It's not very often you see drivers overtake around the outside of turn 1.
That was very skilled. That was a very skilled maneuver by Raiden Shogun indeed. It does go to show how much experience some of these drivers have in pulling off risky maneuvers, but very advantageous maneuvers indeed. So the thing with some drivers who are faster than the others is that there are some drivers who are willing to push the envelope a bit further than the rest, and usually it's these drivers that make it out with that kind of get the gains in racing, and that's what makes them so much more competitive. We're now with Aiden Tan, 10th place driver at the moment. One of the other drivers from I believe from Singapore as well. So great to see some of my own countrymen racing here. Aiden in 10th, handling the Parabolica once again. One of the most interesting corners here in Monza because it is an increasing radius corner, but you have to get your braking right on point. If not, you might brake too late in the corner and run off wide. So it's one of those corners where you kind of have multiple lines that you can choose. So if you're hot lapping, you can go for a traditional out-in out line. But if you're side by side, you will still get the advantage either whether or not you're on the inside or the outside of the exit at Parabolica. So that's what makes that corner very suitable for going for any overtaking moves. So it's all down to how skilled you are as you take that corner. So I think Aiden right now has a sizable gap behind the rest of the drivers further up ahead of the field, but still in the top 10. So great driving nonetheless. 48 minutes on the clock to go in this race. And well, that I have to say that's a pretty interesting paint scheme there. Back with Afif Farida, our favorite co-founder of Speed Heaven, I believe. Afif Farid, certainly his sim of choice is ACC, but right now he's spending quite a lot of time on various other sim platforms as well, with LMU being his most recent foray. So great great outing here by Farid, currently set in 4th position. Afif does have quite a fair bit of success ballast indeed, so it's very remarkable to see him fighting up top here with a last time buy of 149.4, so that's a pretty competitive race pace indeed.
Yeah, we're noticing a couple of teams actually going into the pits as well. Jaden Liao's taken over the first place position. And so Zeth is in the pits, Ryan Lim is in the pits, and Kamal Ali also heading into the pits. This is when we're starting to look at the strategy and when is the best time to come into the pits. Now, normally, most drivers would have a good idea before the start of the race when to come in. But like I say, the increasing tire pressures might cause them to come in a little bit earlier than they normally would. 148.890 that last lap from Jaden Liao. He is pushing very, very hard indeed. 147.8 was his best lap, which is a full-on qualifying lap. Very impressive to pull that off in the race. Coming around the first corner there, we'll see what he decides to do. He looks like he's running a little bit tighter through Parabolica, a good tell that a driver is about to dive into the pits as well. Ali Khairuddin follows him in, so I think we're going to see a lot of the drivers picking roughly the same time to head into the pits. Of course, when the tires start to really fall off, there isn't too much you can do to try and save the situation or extend the tire life. In ACC in particular, you can do the usual tire conservation tricks, but if the pressures and temperatures start to go a little bit too far from you, you kind of have to just bite the bullet and fix it by going to a pit stop. But the good thing is you can adjust different sets of tires, so throughout the course of a race weekend, either in single player or multiplayer, drivers are given a certain amount of tires. You have sets, so you can have a situation in some series where they only give you 3 sets of tires and you have to sort of juggle them around during the race and pick and choose which ones are good and which ones are worn out. throughout the course of the race. Of course, we're quite generous here at HSM, so we decided to give them all the tires they possibly need. But it is an interesting thing in ACC that I haven't seen in any of the sims that came out before it, which is having these sets of tires or a tire limitation and being able to go back and forth, almost like they used to do in IndyCars, where sometimes you run 2 or 3 sets in the race and come back to them towards the end.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, Max. So yeah, having a look at Ali Khairuddin behind Jaden Liao. Yeah, was just going to add on to your point on limited tire choices, on tire limits. So I think if a series would have tire limits, it would definitely play into the strategy of the drivers. So I think specifically in races where tire wear is a bigger factor, such as 90-minute long races, but with Formula One cars, for instance, having limits on tires would force you to be a bit to kind of put more effort into deciding your strategy. It is definitely the case with NASCAR as well on iRacing indeed, and also on some sim platforms that you only get 2 sets of tires for the whole length of 90 lap race. So it does influence how much you have to I guess conserve your tires. Not too much of an issue for these GT3 cars because I think these Michelin hard tires are quite resilient, and we won't expect them to wear out that quickly.
We can see a driver who's attempting to wear them out just a little bit more, trying to catch Seth Yuan. That's Ali Khairuddin of GSR Speeds Esports, in 6th position. GSR, another group of sim racing drivers that have been around for a long time and sort of frenemy-style rivals to Sim Tavern and to all the other teams that have come up in Malaysian sim racing over the years. But Ali Khairuddin doing a fantastic job to keep himself up at the head of the field there, and really pushing as hard as he can to try and catch that car ahead. Zeth, as you know, was leading in the early part of the race there. He's just done his pit stop, which is why he is down the leaderboard just ever so slightly. But it looks like this could be building up to be an interesting little battle as they come up towards the second chicane.
Yep, so the GTR still fighting strong, up in 5th position, I believe. Yeah. So yeah, great battling here indeed between Yun and Khairuddin. Both are the big heavy front engine cars that can eat curbs like it's nothing. So of course at the expense of absolute cornering ability. So well, great to see these cars out here in Monza. It's not always that you get to see a Nissan GTR GT3 nowadays. So it's great to see these cars racing on the ACC platform. Over the curbs there, like it's there's definitely very gracefully over the sleeping policeman there on the first apex of the Variante Ascari, does Khairuddin with a GTR, and his gap is right now, I believe, potentially 9/10 of a second. And we now have a look at Taufik right here. We haven't seen much of Taufik during the broadcast, but he is in his sky blue Ferrari 296 here, set in 7th behind Wilson Woon in 6th. So both Ferraris here 4/10 of a second separating both drivers. So it is still pit stop window at this point. So if the drivers that have pitted, drivers that have not pitted will be due to pit in any moment now, and that would definitely influence how some position changes would unfold at this point. So Woon into the first chicane, and Taufik follows in tow very closely by 4/10 of a second. So Taufik is still not able to close his gap down to ideally 1/10 of a second. So we'll see if Taufik will have the opportunity to do so as he takes the next couple of corners. So this week, once again, I'm tuning into Taufik's stream right on my side monitor, and so look at the webcam, he's absolutely focused on whatever is happening on track indeed. So definitely in his mind, he's trying his best to close the gap as much as possible, Max.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's nothing that can sort of bring the driver's hopes and dreams up more than having a little carrot to chase ahead of him. And he has that with Woon in fifth position in the number 18 Ferrari. And I have to say, that's, again, yet another beautiful livery that we've seen coming up towards here. Now, through Ascari, let's see who's going to be more aggressive through the curbs, who's going to get away with it. Most importantly, look at how much the Ferrari gets upset by the curbs in comparison to previously when we were looking at the GTR and the BMW. Now, this is an opportunity to overtake, but I don't think Taufik is going to take it. And the reason why I say that is that it's the exit out of Parabolica that's going to usually set up the overtaking maneuver into turn one. Oh, there's a spinner out there. I'm not too sure who that is. I think that might have been Ali Khairuddin. I'm not too sure. We'll get a confirmation as they come across the line there, but it looks like he has spun and in fact dropped down to 7th position. Meanwhile, looking at Taufik, is he going to attempt an overtaking maneuver here? Not quite close enough, I don't think. It's now a matter of meters before they get into the braking zone and decide whether they're going to take that overtaking maneuver or not. And I tell you one thing, one of these drivers is staring at the rear view mirror and the other one's staring straight ahead out of the windscreen, coming down towards the second chicane. Again, it's not impossible to overtake here, but it's so easy to defend because the track narrows down quite a bit coming into the second chicane. So it's going to be all about getting a good drive out of here, out of Lesmos. The next opportunity for Taufik is going to be the Ascari chicane. Woon a little bit quicker on the entry, but Taufik a little bit quicker on the exit. It's a literal yo-yo battle. Some of the, this is literally just differences in driving style right now. Woon looking like he's much more confident on the brakes compared to Taufik, who's much more confident out of acceleration. Coming down towards here, it looks like he's going to go defensive there. Woon with the LOR team, hard on the brakes, just about managing to keep that position, but he goes a little bit wide through the second apex. This could be an opportunity for Taufik onto the back straight. Now, is he going to hold the bit a little bit and try and get that overtaking maneuver done in turn one, or is he going to go full on here? It looks like Wilson is going to defend a little bit. Woon hard on the brakes there. Both drivers going side by side through Parabolica. And this is absolute show-stopping driving there from Taufik. He manages to claim that position and get the drive out of Parabolica and onto the main straight. That is spectacular bit of driving from Moin Taufik. Coming down towards the first chicane there. Woon all over the back of the other Ferrari, coming down towards the braking zone. Hard defensive driving there right now. Woon goes a little bit wide and Taufik manages to claim that position, but that was spectacular driving there from Taufik. Both cars on the absolute edge of grip the entire way around. Fantastic.
Oh, that was such a brilliant overtaking move there indeed, and absolutely great on the part of both drivers for making that overtake move happen safely and without dramas. Another battle here, potential repeat of a similar overtaking that we've just seen. This is between Ryan Lim and Jin, indeed. Yeah, in for seventh. So both drivers are now 4/10 of a second. So we are seeing some recurring patterns compared to the previous overtaking attempt by just earlier on. So Ryan a bit deep into the first Lesmo corner, but he's got a great exit and almost thought of launching it along the inside in preparation for the second Curva de Lesmo. So a run down the backstretch here, quite a short stretch here, slight bit of a kink. Ryan trying his best to stay in the slipstream of Chin there, very important. So Joshua Chin leads Ryan Lim still into Ascari, but we do see, Ryan Lim over the bumps there, and that's put an end to that close overtaking attempt there. So Joshua Chin would be able to escape the crosshairs of Ryan Lim for at least for this moment, and Chin will continue to hold on to his 7th position that he's fought very hard to hold on to. So that was some close driving indeed, and Ryan, of course, fortunate that he was able to save his car and keep his car pointing the right side up. So that's great stuff indeed, Matt.
Yeah, it does look like he got it a little bit crossed up at Ascari. I think what happened there is that the car ahead had to check up a little bit in order to... Oh, there's a crash! There is a crash there. Wilson Woon, the LOR Ascent car, has spun around. This was the car that Jaden was driving earlier on before the pit stop. LOR Ascent car. He is going to rejoin, I think, down in 6th or 7th position there. That is so unfortunate there. I'm not too sure what happened. We just missed that incident there, but it looks like a little bit of an argument going into the chicane at turn 1, and it looks like Ryan Lim might actually get a position out of it if he can hold it on the brakes. Beautiful bit of driving through their second chicane. Very hard overtaking position there, but beautiful bit of driving, beautiful bit of braking from Ryan Lim. Funnily enough, sometimes to go fast, you do need to be able to slow down.
Yeah, that's the whole point of absolutely handling your car. You need to go slow to go fast, and in fact it's all about braking at the right time, not braking too early, not braking too late. Very important, and making sure that you put your car in the right position in order to get the most out of the situation at hand. So Wilson Woon currently down in 8th position. He's now trying to close his gap with Ryan Lim, who's up in 7th, and Joshua Chin, who's well, I think Ryan has managed to almost close the gap with Joshua, so we might see something unfold once again. We're still in the middle third of the race, but we are seeing action picking back up again, especially with all the pit stops done and with drivers swapped. So one thing about drivers swap is that those drivers who race solo, as we have an overtaking attempt right here, Ryan Lim on the inside along the exit of Parabolica, so side by side run down the main stretch. It is going to be a drag race between Lim and Chin right now. Let's see who's going to have the advantage, the straight line speed advantage along the main stretch here. So it seems that Ryan Lim has been able to clean off that move ahead of Joshua Chin into the entry of turn 1. And we might see Wilson Woon also trying to leapfrog Joshua Chin. Potentially, we'll see if that happens later on, but great move by Ryan Lim to go up to 7th position. Great driving there.
Yeah, absolutely. And your heart has to go out to Joshua Chin there. Ryan Lim, they were fighting really hard with each other, but now Woon is right behind him at the moment. The LOR Ascent car getting closer and closer, and it looks like he's going to have to defend yet again. Having to defend twice in succession really does put a lot of pressure on the driver, especially this deep into the race. You're already starting to feel just a little bit unfocused. The fatigue is just slowly starting to come in. Not so much the physical fatigue, but the mental fatigue of having to manage all of the different aspects that go into racing a GT3 car. These drivers will be adjusting their ABS, they'll be adjusting TC, some of them will be even adjusting their brake bias as they go through the track, and of course adjusting the way they drive their cars. Oh, a little bit wide through there. He's been a little bit slow going through Ascari chicane. Perhaps there's something in the setup that means that he has to check up a little bit through the second hairpin. He does get a good drive out of it though as well, so Joshua perhaps has worked out a way of going through that chicane without having to put the car to too much risk, but he does have to slow the car down a little bit more than usual in the mid part. And we saw earlier that actually caught out Ryan Lim, who wasn't expecting it, I think, as they went through the chicane there, but he does get a good drive out of it as well. The LOR Ascent car has a fantastic setup in it, so I would imagine that Wilson Woon doing all he can to try and close up the gap, hard on the brakes into the first chicane there, and Joshua still has the position. Now, is he going to try and do anything at the second chicane? I don't think there's going to be much of a chance coming into the second chicane there through the fantastically long right-hander here, keeping really close to the right-hand side, hard on the brakes, and it looks like Joshua has just managed to open that gap up a little bit. Wilson Woon here in 8th position right now and desperately trying to gain some positions there. Ooh, Joshua made a bit of a mistake, and it looks like Wilson's going to try and go around the outside of Lesmo. Very difficult place to try and overtake, not able to do it, but he's got the speed going through Lesmo still. Is he going to go for it in Lesmo 2? Hard on the brakes. Is he going to make it? Fantastic bit of driving from both drivers in order to keep their positions there. Now Joshua is in the slipstream coming down towards the braking zone there, and it looks like Chung is right behind him in 9th position, hard on the brakes there. It looks like it's going to be a really tricky A battle coming through this section, but it looks like the LOR Ascent car, Wilson Woon, manages to keep his position up ahead. Meanwhile, Joshua is in all sorts of trouble. They're going very wide, and he loses yet another position there to Chin in the number 14 Ferrari. And it's all change in the midfield, just as we always see in these streams. Jinbin Chong there managing to enter the chat of this battle and managing to gain himself another position. Usually, well, most of the time, the midfield battles are just as intense, if not more so, than the battle at the front.
Yeah, that was an exciting battle that lasted almost I would say a good half a lap there between the drivers. And there's Chong just sat behind Chin once again. So I think Chin has managed to reclaim that his 8th position from Chong. So that was a short-lived overtaking move there. Yet again we're seeing Wilson Woon coming under a lot of heat from Joshua Chin right there. So Chin made the move again, and he's pulled the BMW behind with him. So we do see the LOR Ascent Ferrari of Wilson Woon slipping by 2 positions once again. So right now the leader of this 3-way battle pack is Joshua Chin. Great exchange of positions. They're all happening within the span of a few corners. So it goes to show how absolutely competitive these drivers are. Chong currently set between... Chin goes a little bit wide. The action still continues. It doesn't stop right here. Now his turn to slip 2 positions by through his hands. And, well, we do have a very successful Chong Jinbin right now. Up at the front of this 3-way battle pack. So he came from behind within a lap. He went up, down, and now he's all the way up in this battle pack. Once again, Joshua Chin along the inside of Ascari there, side by side. There seems to be a bit of a yellow flag instead there, so they must have touched somehow.
Yeah,
well, it
3
looks
yellow
like
flags that Wilson Woon, Chin Jinbin, and Nicholas Tan. And I'm not too sure what happened there. It looks like they've gone off the track. They have gone off the track there, so the battle still continues, and Kamal Ali and Tan Wei Lun has joined in, and Shazwan's joined in as well. So it's drama there for LOR Ascent. We're doing so well in the Teams Championship, but unfortunately they're going to have to push really hard in order to try and get some points out of this. They're still in the points there, but they're going to need as much as possible. Or at least they're still in the points on the leaderboard. We'll see how it shakes out when it comes across. He comes across in 12th position, so he's going to really have to push hard in order to get some of those points back. But that is a disaster. And just as I thought the battle was going to end, it kept going, and it kept getting crazier and crazier. We all thought this was going to be the boring part of the race, but it's all action right now, the lower half of the top 10. Meanwhile, in 3rd position, Afik Farid is pushing very hard in order to try and catch back up with Taufik. And these 2 drivers have had some wonderful battles in the past, and I think we're going to see yet another classic bit of driving there from Afik Farid and Mohamed Taufik in 3rd and 2nd place respectively, coming down towards the Parabolica, and it looks like Afik's having a look, perhaps just selling a little bit of a dummy just to keep Taufik on his toes, coming out around the outside there. Both drivers trying to get on the throttle as early as possible, trying to take as little traction control as they can. Every time they go into the TC, every time TC cuts in, it cuts power, and they want to avoid that as much as possible, especially coming up towards turn 1. It looks like he's got a bit of a drag coming up towards the braking zone there. Taufik, beautiful bit of defending, but Afik is going to try and go around the outside. Is he going to be able to do it? Not quite able to do it. He has to concede the position. Taufik managing to keep hold of that position for yet one more corner. Now coming around Curva Grande, really flat out and really pushing the cars as hard as possible. You can get a draft going through the corner there, although it's much harder than obviously going in a straight line. Afik Farid close enough to try something, but he doesn't do it. Again, very narrow, the entry into the second chicane, so you only want to go for it if you're really confident. Now he's going to put a lot of pressure on Taufik into the Lesmos. We've seen a couple of drivers make a mistake through Lesmos and open up a possibility. Both drivers going very wide there onto the curb there, but if they keep 2 wheels on the curb, it is still within track limits. Coming down towards the braking zone for Ascari. hard on the throttle. They're probably trying to push that throttle pedal right through the carbon fiber tub of that Ferrari, that McLaren, looking for a gap. Again, not quite able to do it. Taufik just a little bit better on the brakes there, but Afik Farid, fantastic speed going through Ascari. Both drivers running as wide as they dare, coming out of Ascari, coming down towards the braking zone for Parabolica. Let's have a look and see if they're going to do anything. Taufik on the defensive. Afik goes out wide. They're going to go side by side through Parabolica. Are we going to see yet another show-stopping move? Not quite able to do it. Afik Farid goes a little bit wide there, but that puts him in position for the slipstream coming down towards the start-finish straight there. They've got traffic up ahead, so they're going to have to sort this out one way or the other before they catch traffic and really complicate their situation. Afik Farid, fantastic run, fantastic bit of slipstream. Taufik pushing him all the way up. Afik Farid getting the car very, very squirrely there, and very, very defensive there from Taufik. Aggressive driving from both drivers. And I can tell you one thing, Afik Farid will be popping off in that car, absolutely hitting the decibel meters right now, and it's still going.
Oh man, it's still going indeed. I think there's a lot of pressure in both Taufik and Farid's cockpits at the moment. Taufik having the stress, having to defend his position, and Afik Farid trying as much as possible to get any opportunity he can go past Taufik. So the battle still continues. We'll still stick with them for the time being, as we do have some traffic right in front, which might throw a spanner into the works for Taufik and Farid indeed. So good use of the exit there along the exit of the first Lesmo and out along the second Lesmo. So I hope these two cars in front will not impede Taufik and Farid. So we'll see if Taufik is going to take advantage of these cars in front to both use a slipstream, and hopefully if he's able to get a jump at them, maybe get a stumbling block between himself and Farid. But of course Farid does not want any of that to happen. He will want a clear shot at the overtake. So we'll sit with them. Oh, almost very close indeed. I think that's Lacambra, one of the back markers giving way to the cars in front. So when Taufik and Farid now being flanked by lap cars front and back. So Taufik cleared off the lap traffic there, and so does Farid follow in tow. So that was almost a bit of a contact there, but Farid and Taufik managed to hold their cars together. But the result of that altercation there was that now the drivers have a second between each other. I certainly would not want to be sitting in the passenger seat of Farid's car, because I know he'll be blowing a lot of steam in there. And Taufik must be relieved that he's now built a bit of a gap advantage ahead of what has been the stiffest competition he's faced so far, Afik Farid. So both these drivers have been race winners of, Farid was a race winner for the opening race, and Taufik was a race winner for last week at Silverstone. So both these drivers have won here within this HSM GT European Tour. So these are the front runners that you're looking at right now, giving their best A game indeed here at Monza, Max.
Absolutely, and also in the background there you can see Ali Karudin getting closer and closer. Of course, when these guys were battling, Ali Karudin must have been pulling off qualifying laps to try and catch up. And that little contretemps with the back markers has helped Ali Khairuddin catch back up again. Of course, there's a back marker between the two drivers. Afik Farid sideways coming out of Lesmo. He is pushing that car hard right now. He is beating on that car like it owes him a lot of money. And if this was real life racing, that car would owe him a lot of money, to be fair. Absolutely sending it through the curbs here at Ascari, just about clipping the gravel on the exit there. He is using absolutely all of the racetrack and then some. He's paid the entry fee. He's going to use all of the track coming down towards the braking zone here, the final corner. He's caught right back up with Taufik, and this is going to be exciting stuff indeed. We've seen him try on the final corner. You've seen him try in the first corner. We've seen them absolutely all over the track, coming, defending and attacking, coming into turn one there. Let's see if he's going to be able to catch back up over the course of this lap. It looks like he can. Afik Farid, very, very quick driver back in his day, but of course he took that gap He took a little bit of a break from sim racing.
Oh, no!
A little bit of a contact there, and it looks like Taufik has got the car very sideways because of that gap, and both drivers are now side by side through Curva Grande. Taufik on the outside, Farid on the inside. That's obviously going to swap around. Taufik's going to be on the inside with Farid on the outside coming up towards the chicane there, and it looks like Farid had to give that position back and let him through this chicane at least in order to try and live another day. But that was spectacular stuff. The tensions are rising between these two drivers, and of course championship implications are afoot coming out of the drive here into Lesmo 2. Again, very important to get the racing line just right there. It is a one-line corner, but again, you can see that menacing GTR in the back. Ali Khairuddin getting closer and closer and closer. Both drivers ahead of him can just about hear the Jaws team playing in the background. That black GTR has such a menacing presence on these two drivers, so they're really going to have to push as hard as possible whilst battling each other. And again, Farid is back to where he started in terms of battling. He's going to have a look on the inside or the outside. He might not be able to be close enough to do anything here, but will he be able to get the drive out of Parabolica? Will he be able to get anything happening there? Taufik choosing the wider line. In fact, he's going very wide indeed. He is hard on the throttle and just about hung on to that Ferrari, right on the edge of grip, right on the edge of the track. Afik Farid as well, almost dipping the grass, dipping into the grass there, coming in onto the inside. Will he be able to do anything? Not quite able to do anything. I think that might have been a bit more of a fakie just to try and keep Taufik on his tails. Afik Farid, of course, quite happy to play a few mind games as well, and as he should. Psychology is just as much part of racing as everything else, but I have to tell you, this has to be one of the best battles I've seen in the championship. In fact, one of the best, well, it's definitely the best battle I've seen this year so far.
But yeah, of course, it's January. You just started the year, so definitely these are two of the fastest drivers here at the HSM, within the HSM community. Indeed, but I'm surprised you didn't get tongue-tied there, Max, because I almost did. So Farid taking a good exit along the exit of Lesmo 1 and onto the exit of Lesmo 2. So you can use most of the AstroTurf. Hopefully it doesn't get you and doesn't cop you a slowdown penalty there. Khairuddin looks like he wants a slice of this pie as well, so we might stick with them some more to see if any action emerges. So Farid, well, he tried to think of a dive down the inside line, but that probably wouldn't work at a narrow track like Monza at this point. But it matters more they get a good exit out of Askari, which is what both Taufik and Afik have done at this point. So Khairuddin is probably in a good position to really witness this two-way battle here, battle for P2 indeed, up front. I think both of these cars, in fact, believe it or not, both of these cars probably have some form of ballast as well, which explains why they might be quite far behind the race leader. They're coming upon a bit of lap traffic there. Farid making use of slipstream from the left Lexus there, and Taufik remaining on the racing line, so they've both cleared the lap car there. Farid trying to, well, weave a bit to try to see if he can dive along the inside, but it's typically difficult to make a dive into turn 1 if you're already at the braking zone and not overtaking yet. So as they come upon Biasono once again, taking a tight right, keeping towards the right as much as possible. We'll ride on a hot seat now, because every time you're in proximity of Afik, you learn you expand your Malay vocabulary a bit here and there. So Afik set in third behind Taufik. We'll see how he tries to optimize his racing line as he's behind lap traffic here. So both cars are both are rear engine cars. I think Afik Farid is driving the only McLaren on the grid at this point, and the McLaren is probably surprisingly one of the heavier cars. So it does have some characteristics that will be a little bit of a disadvantage, but certainly not in the capable hands of Afik. Top speed run down under the bridge of this of the big oval track there. We continue being conservative on the brakes there. Afik braking the same time as Taufik does, so we will continue to maintain this posture at this point. Both drivers getting good exit lines out of Askari and onto the backstretch once again. We may or may not see a It's going to take time for Farid to try to close up the gap. It's not. Oh, it is going to work down along the inside into Parabolica, and Farid nearly knocked Taufik out there. Well, I'll probably keep an eye on Taufik's stream and see how the response is. So Farid makes the overtaking move work for second place, but Taufik still wants to retake his. To hold on to his position. So side by side down the main stretch, Farid has the positional advantage at this point with Taufik along the outside. So we'll see if Taufik is able to outbrake Farid and potentially go for a loop around the outside, similar to what Raiden Shogun did a couple of laps ago. But Farid seals off that move for second place. Taufik not able to do anything about it apart from getting a good exit out of Parabolica just now. And Farid up to second place. We also have a Khairuddin who's very close by in fourth, and he seems to want a bit of want a piece of the pie as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All that battling, all that spectacular driving, and the spectacular overtake through the final corner has meant that Ali Khairuddin has been able to catch up. Now, this battle isn't just for race positions, but this also has championship implications. Khairuddin is a little bit behind Farid, Taufik a little bit further behind as well. So these three drivers are going to be very keen to try and catch back up with Farid, but also to swap positions with each other. Ali Khairuddin has done a fantastic job of just keeping the hammer down and keeping the pressure up on these two in that GTR, and he's gotten very close to Taufik as well. And there's also a little bit of psychology involved here, because if you've lost a position, Taufik is going to be driving that car as hard as possible, perhaps even overdriving it a little bit in order to try and catch back up. And you can see that Afik Farid has managed to open up quite a bit of a gap there to Taufik. So we can see that he's got a little bit of a quicker car coming down towards the braking zone here. And Ali Khairuddin is getting closer and closer to Taufik. Are we seeing yet another move being set up here? Taufik is quicker coming out of Parabolica right now, so it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But what I have noticed is that Taufik is quicker coming out of Parabolica, perhaps a little bit quicker coming out of Lesmos, but the GTR is just that little bit quicker coming out of the onto the big end of the track, towards the end of the straights, and perhaps a little bit better on traction coming out of the corners there. So there's a lot of give and take, and that starts to matter when you're this close to each other. It's all about where does the advantages and disadvantage lie between the two drivers. Ali Khairuddin is going to be thinking, okay, I can't catch him here, I can't catch him there, but perhaps I could try something somewhere else. It's going to be one of those chess match style battles between these two drivers there.
Oh yeah, definitely it's a chess match played by cars. And of course, both chess pieces moving very fast indeed. So definitely a game of strategy that these guys are very good at, especially up at this part of the grid. Khairuddin having a 0.3 of a second gap behind Taufik, so I think Taufik has effectively ceded claim to a second position to Farid there, and we're now down towards the final 15 minutes of the race, and we will see the NT being picked up quite a bit. As all drivers want to make any last-minute overtaking moves that they can. So Ali Khairuddin doing a very good job hanging on to Taufik and trying to close the gap with Taufik as much as possible. And he seems to be doing a good job so far. A slipstream run down the backstretch here. Of course, the Ferrari not offering as much of a slipstream, although still significant to the big Godzilla Nissan GTR back there. Good use of the exit of Parabolica right here. And we'll have a look, we'll ride on this battle from the perspective of Taufik, but looking rearwards. So Khairuddin inching ever so slightly closer into Taufik. We can see the top speed advantage that GTR has, but it's not able to pull off the move to the inside. Of course, the main stretch here at Monza is long, but it's not as long as Catalonia, so some things you still can't do. Khairuddin continues to hang on to Taufik at this moment as they take on Biasono. And we'll see if Khairuddin might be able to think of any move going into the second variante chicane. This second chicane coming up. A very tight entry into a corner, coming very so close indeed. There's 0.2 of a second between both cars. So Khairuddin trying his best to cling on to Taufik as much as possible as they take these sequence of corners. Good use of the axis there, let's move.
Yeah, this is all about studying the prey right now for Ali Khairuddin. He's actually sort of keeping the gap very, very tight, keeping the pressure very high. But unlike Afiq Farid, who's very aggressive and is always looking for a gap and always diving up on the inside, sometimes just to try and scare his opponent, sell a dummy or try and make you move in a way that is advantageous to him. And Ali Khairuddin tends to be a little bit more of that sort of classic wait and see, tactical, almost Prost-like in just analyzing the driver ahead. He knows there's 10 minutes in the race. He doesn't have to make the maneuver right now. He's got a little bit of time. He can think and he can try and plan it out so that not only is he going to make that overtaking maneuver stick, but also make sure that he can get a gap between himself and the car ahead. But it's not over yet. Taufik is quite aggressive when it comes to defending. And, he hasn't quite defended this time around. So Ali Khairuddin manages to get into the braking position here. Is Taufik going to try and go around? Yes, he will be able to go around because Ali Khairuddin not quite able to keep that car in check. So that car, he's going to give the position back to Taufik, which is exemplary bit of sportsmanship, but he's also taking the wider line around that corner there to try and keep the speed up and keep the battle going. Through the second chicane, hard on the throttle, coming out towards the outside and into the braking zone here for Lesmo. And again, it's very hard to tell. The differences have actually become less. Is Ali changing his driving style a little bit? He did go a little bit too wide there, so perhaps he's trying different things in order to try and overtake Taufik. Again, fascinating driving from all of these drivers right now, but again, not quite close enough, I don't think. Meanwhile, Afiq terrifying some of the back markers further ahead there. And that's another thing that coming up towards the end of the race here, the back markers are going to struggle a little bit more towards the end of the race. Perhaps the focus levels go down, the mental fatigue starts to get to you, and you're getting lapped more and more often as well. So that all starts to build up to a situation where we could see something surprising happen towards the end. Having said that, this series so far we've been relatively okay when it comes to blue flags. Most of the drivers quite keen to get out of the way. Some of them perhaps a little bit over enthusiastic when it comes to getting out of the way of the front runners, but then again, perhaps that's better than being obstinate and not letting the front runners through. So I guess you got to pick your battles sometimes with that stuff.
Yeah, I just realized something. Taufik has number 711 on his car, so yeah, I think his door does not close. There's a reference to one of the rush hour lines. Ali Khairuddin in fourth, set behind Taufik, 2/10 of a second behind there. I'll leave it to you, Max, to figure that line out. It was quite iconic. But Khairuddin thinking of an overtaking move into the chicane. Taufik, well, the gap is almost down to 1/10 of a second, still 2/10 indeed. So with 8 minutes to go, I think Khairuddin should at some point switch to attack mode if he wants to make the overtaking move. But not exactly much time left for that to happen. So you can see that Nismo badge along the side of the cockpit there. So there is definitely a great amount of motor racing pedigree in this Nissan GTR R35 GT3 that Ali Khairuddin is piloting. You don't really see this car in the present GT3 grid anymore, but it's still good to see this racing here on ACC. Still a couple of more moments before we might see the white flag. It's going to be a few laps from now, so I would hazard a guess that we would probably have probably about 6 laps of racing to go before the drivers finish this race. That's been really exciting, but battle still continues. Taufik clearing lap traffic there. That is the Petronas Porsche there. I love this paint scheme so much. It looks so good on the car. I hope to have this paint scheme as well. Khairuddin, unfortunately, that has led to Khairuddin losing a few tenths of a second advantage there behind compared to Taufik there. So that would result in a bit of upending his strategy at this point.
Yeah, and as you've probably noticed, dear viewers at home, the lights have come back on the cars. The sun is starting to dim a little bit. The track temperature went up quite high. It's starting to come back down again to where we started. So the drivers are going to start having the opposite problem, believe it or not, to the way they started. So you can't really win in these conditions. Towards the end of the race there, the track's getting a little bit colder, so the car's going to change again. This race, I think, is going to go to the people who can actually adapt their driving style to manage the tires the best. Ali Karudin has done a fantastic job of that. Taufik as well has done really well to hang on to that third position. Just to have a quick run through on the leaderboard, Zeth Yuen is in first, Afif Farid in second, Taufik in third, Karudin in fourth, Tan in fifth, Ryan Lim in sixth, and Jinbin Chong in seventh place. Nicholas Tan in 8th, Shazwan in 9th, and Kamal Ali in 10th position. Your race right now, and right now we're having a look at the battle between Khairuddin and Taufik, and it's all going to come down to if he can actually recover, and also if the lap traffic is going to be a big factor towards the end of the race there.
Yeah, it seems to be quite a big factor at this point. Almost 5 minutes on the clock there left for the drivers, so potentially 4 laps of racing to go if calculations are on point. So Khairuddin still set behind Taufik, and the gap has extended to 9/10 of a second. So I would say probably the most of the other positions might already have been solidified at this point, except in this one, the battle for the final spot on the podium. Currently, Taufik has it; he still wants it. Khairuddin wants it as well. We'll see if Khairuddin will be able to continue exerting any of his previous strategies. So Khairuddin's patience is definitely going to his advantage, very much so, as compared to potentially Afik's driving style. But Afik is all the way up there in second already, so so that's that. So Taufik continues to hold his ground very well. I think the only game for Taufik to play now is to keep his car pointing at the right direction, driving as defensively as he can where the situation calls for it, and otherwise maintaining his posture, maintaining his pace, and maintaining the pace of his car to the point where he can try to discourage any overtaking attempts by Khairuddin. So that is the job that Taufik has to do now for the next 4 to 5 minutes.
Yes, it's going to be a real challenge there for Taufik. It's maximum focus, maximum dedication, maximum pace that he can get out of the car right now. Now, it's quite common to see a lot of these drivers start to drive by the rear view mirror as opposed to the windscreen out the front. And that can be a mistake for a lot of beginner and intermediate drivers there. But Taufik has been doing this for a long time. He's going to have his focus at the front of the car, pushing that car as hard as it'll go, only glancing at the back just to see Ali Khairuddin where he's going to be at. And again, he's closed up the gap, but I'm not sure if he's closing up fast enough to be able to do anything within the next lap or two, unless Taufik makes a mistake. It's going to be all about who blinks first, I think. And especially for Taufik, he really needs to have a mistake-free couple of laps in order to try and keep his hold on the podium positions right now.
So it is nightfall. Headlights are definitely on, and well, despite the drivers won't really spend too much time under the stars as opposed to the time under the sun. So I think that's probably a good thing for drivers. But right now, as the track is dark enough, they are mostly relying on what remains of the sunset as well as headlights to try to guide their way around the track. But we don't have a absolutely cold track issue that we would have had in the morning, because in the sunset the track temperatures are still somewhere there. The track still does retain some temperature, although it is down to 21 degrees. So I think this is kind of the point where the track might be on the limit of what is comfortable and what is drivable for the drivers. So Khairuddin, will he be able to make use of the nightfall to perhaps scheme an overtaking move? On Taufik, as you can see, the headlights illuminating the track in front of the drivers well enough for them to see what's ahead. You can still kind of make out what's going on along the rest of the track. There are no trackside street lights, so to speak, unlike in Singapore. So the drivers are going to rely entirely on the headlights, and also, we do have some spotlights here on the backstretch, so that's good indeed. Taufik still holds on to third place, and he's definitely not letting go. And Khairuddin, well, he still has to try to find as much of an advantage as he can. You can see that he's struggling slightly along this high-speed curve of Parabolica. He's going a bit light. He has to go a bit light on the throttle, but is he going to creep up slightly to try to get a bit of a gain as he goes along the main stretch, making use of the slipstream there? Oh, he's decided to lift. Khairuddin has decided to lift and not go for an overtaking move on Taufik, so that is a very measured and calculated choice there. You might have just heard the race director say that it's the last time of racing to go, so we might see the white flag come out within the next few moments, but we'll continue to follow the battle nonetheless. Along the outside of Biasono, that's pretty interesting choice of line there by Khairuddin. We'll see if he's able to make the overtaking move work into the second chicane, while Taufik still holds on to his third position, and Khairuddin is not going to go for an overtaking move. Oh!
Yo, in the meantime, Farid there was getting very, very close to Zeth Yuan, and I think he might have had a little bit of an issue there for Zeth, which caused Farid to close up the gap. Just staring at the timing screens there, it's just about to cut him. Yeah. But Zeth Yuan is still battling with Farid right now, and big contact there. Big contact there from Farid. Managed to get past there. Zeth Yuan tried to do the counter attack, and that's changed everything right now at the front of the field. This last lap has been incredible. Farid was in second position, coming up towards there just as you were leaving the other battle. He actually overtook Zeth Yuan, and it looks like Zeth had a bit of a mistake coming out of the Lesmo, and it looks like Farid right at the line. It's not over until it's over, and Farid claims the win there. Taufik comes home in second position, and Khairuddin is in third place. Unbelievable driving there. Your heart has to go out for Zeth Yuan, who was in the lead of the race until the very end there. I think he must have had a bit of an issue coming across the line. Aiden Tan is in fifth position. Ryan Lim comes home to take sixth place. Jin Bin Chong is gonna come home in seventh position. Unbelievable finish to the race. Meanwhile, Nicholas Tan is having a bit of a battle with Shazwan coming up towards the final corner there. Both drivers hard on the throttle. It's going to be a drag race to the line. It looks like Shazwan might just take it at the death. Absolutely fantastic stuff indeed from Shazwan to come home in seventh position. Unbelievable.
Let's come Ali across the line in ninth, and it would look like Joshua Chin might be able to take the final of the top 10 position. This is absolutely insane stuff here, absolutely insane racing to end off the third round here at Monza. But well, my heart really goes out to Zeth, but this is Joshua Chin who rounds off the top 10, and Wilson Woon in 11th. Wilson was further up, but I think something must have happened that caused Wilson to fall off down into 10th. Raiden Shogun, great drive there. He's probably going to come around the start finish line in 11th position, but this has been quite an insane end to the race here at Monza. It's absolutely fascinating and amazing stuff by the drivers.
That was brilliant, and right the way to the very end there, we pushed as hard as possible, but Farid managed to get home in first position, Taufik second, Ali Khairuddin in third, and this is a big advantage to Farid coming towards the final round. Not quite in the bag. Anything can happen, as we saw with Zeth in this race, and it is a 3-hour race for a solo driver, so that's going to be exciting stuff indeed. But that has been an amazing race, a showstopper of a finish. We'll try and see what happened, and we'll clue you in next week as to what exactly happened at the top part of the racetrack there. But in any case, this has been quite a spectacular Monza race, quite an entertaining Monza race as well. Sometimes the races get a bit processional here, but this time around we've had a lot of just brilliant entertainment from start to finish, haven't we?
Oh yeah, we absolutely have. I think none of us would have predicted the way this race would finish, given it's a 90-minute race. the drivers are still competitive all the way to the end. So that was definitely amazing to see at a place like Monza. Well, our earlier prediction of the racing action being focused towards like the first third and the final third of the race, that was kind of in place, but we did not expect the action to unfold exactly this way. So, well, we have two-time race winner Afik Farid as the outcome of this race. It was almost going to be for Zeth, but unfortunately the unfortunate incident happened there. So we have Taufik up on the second spot of the podium, along with Khairuddin up on third as well. So we do have two ex-race winners. In fact, their cars have ballast up at the pointy end of the podium. So that goes to show that we do have very excellent drivers here on the grid, Max.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been an absolute pleasure to be bringing this race to you. Special thanks to all the HSM guys and to the drivers who have been competing, and to you guys at home who have joined us here in the studio. Special thanks also to all of our partners. We are going to leave you with that amazing bit of racing from Monza. Just a reminder, this time next week, it's going to be what we're hearing is a 3-hour race. So do stay tuned to all of the socials, and for all the drivers, do stay tuned to the WhatsApp chats for that. But from all of us here at HSM, I've been Max Palmer. This has been Chan Wei Han. Special thanks to Eka in the broadcast studio, and to Cam and the gang running the race. We will see you all in the next stream. Bye for now.